Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and after all these years, bustin' still makes me feel good. Bustin' makes me feel good. I just got home from seeing Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I had a really good time with it, even though that trailer had me so concerned. So, for the point of this video, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we usually do for reviews. I'm going to give you a long list of things I liked about the movie, and then at the end, we'll talk about the cons or the negatives. We'll talk about the few little nagging hiccups that didn't quite work for me. But all in all, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, this new movie about a new ghost besieging the Ghostbusters world, these new characters and the old legacy characters that we love oh so much, an entity named Goraka, who brings with him the death chill, and he takes siege of New York. I gotta say, there was a lot that I love, mainly that we were back in New York. I think that setting works so much better than Oklahoma. There's so many better set pieces, so many like landmarks, so much iconography that fits just with America, but also with the Ghostbusters world that just made me feel at home. It felt like we were in the right venue. And like I said, just so much more potential than Oklahoma because there's so much more congestion, there's so much more populace, which means there's more victims, there's more stakes. We can weave in and out of traffic if we do a high-speed chase like we see in the beginning of this movie. We can see high-rises torn to shreds. We can go up and down different levels of buildings and out into the streets and so on and so forth. So I think Ghostbusters ultimately is just better suited to the Big Apple than it is to old Oklahoma. Now, I really enjoyed the previous movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife. However, I just felt like by the time we got to the third act, it was too templated, too safe, too much of the old. I've seen this before. Like literally that third act, I had seen it before. I'm happy to report that with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, there is a lot of new ghost stuff. So much new ghost stuff. Talking about like new ghost positions. We don't just have Ghostbusters. Winston has this whole agency and he has his own team of Ghostbuster engineers. We have new ghost capturing devices like drones that fly up underneath airborne ghosts and captures them. We have all sorts of new ghost containment. We have all sorts of new ghost analysis devices. We have new ghost in general. We have like a little booger ghost that will like roll over head over feet and then puke on you in a way that would make Pazuzu from The Exorcist blush. We have this possessor ghost that will just bounce all over the place and take over inanimate objects, where we get fun sequences like a trash bag getaway scene. That is right, we have people chasing after a trash bag, and somehow that actually works. We open the movie with a Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon that's just zigging and zagging through the sky, going through the streets as the people are in the Ecto-1 chasing it down. Really great moment to open the movie. Great inciting incident to get you hooked in. Really fun, really cool ghost to see them try to go after and to capture. And then, of course, Goraka, the big bad. And we needed a new big bad. We couldn't just do Gozer and the like all over again. We couldn't just go back to Ghostbusters 2 and do their villains. We needed something new. And I think Goraka and his death chill is actually really freaking interesting. And he has a cool design. He is monstrous. He is tall and lanky and menacing. And he's got these great, big, long, wretched horns. These long, nasty fingers that just they could scrape down your spine. That this guy wants to hurt you, that he really does want to wipe out the human race and get vengeance after we learn about his lore and his backstory. So I thought Goraka was a welcome addition, a needed addition. The Ghostbusters world has so much potential. It is so big. There's so many places to go. We can't just do the same old, same old. So if you were worried about that, you thought you saw the trailer and like, oh, are we just going to get stuff like Slimer? Are we just going to get the old lady library ghost? You might. Those are some things for the old heads, for the OGs, the ones that have been around for forever, but there's still so much more to reinvigorate things and to keep us coming back. There's still so many new places to go, so many new ghosts to bust in this world. And so I think this movie is worth checking out for the new ghost and for all the new technology and all the new characters that are after said ghost. And let's talk about those characters, because one of the biggest gripes I'm hearing from people who detract from the film say the cast is too robust. There's too many heads and there's too many people to give enough time to. And I actually disagree. Now, do they all get like fully fleshed out arcs? No, but I'm okay with that because this is like blockbuster popcorn fare, and I think it's really fun blockbuster popcorn fare. And ultimately, when I think about Ghostbusters Afterlife, I'm like, was Finn Wolfhard's character really that entertaining? Was his girlfriend that memorable or funny? How about the mom of Finn Wolfhard, Miss Spangler? Was she that interesting? Was she that dynamic? No, not so much. So instead of extending their screen time and giving them more, How about we get some new blood in there? We infuse some more comedy and some really dynamic comedy. Because stepping in, we have Kumail Nanjiani, who does some really nice dynamic stuff in this movie. He is this kind of wacky, offbeat deadbeat who's just trying to get by, and he's kind of a shyster, and he gets kind of pulled into something that is way too big for him. He's over his head, and he just has really nice deliveries of his lines. He has really good comedic timing. He really has good rapport with different characters in the movie. I thought he was a really good addition to this cast. And then we have one of the new Ghostbuster engineers, whose name is escaping me. 1 second. James Acaster. He's like one of the head engineers for Winston, and he's a little bit like Egon, super brainy, super brainy, super monotone. But man, does he have some really nice, wicked one-liners, and he has the driest of dry humor, which I felt like we needed, because that kind of was something that we had in the old days of Ghostbusters, and we haven't really been able to get since then. And I thought he did it better. I thought he even had lines that were a little bit better than the way that some of our OG legacy Ghostbusters were delivering it. And speaking of our legacy Ghostbusters, there's not so much going on with so many characters that they get lost in the fray. They still have really nice moments. Bill Murray is just so comfortable as Peter Venkman, and you can see his relishing and the receiving of his roses. He just looks at ease on screen. He looks so confident, so happy to be back, and knowing that his audience loves him so much. Ernie Hudson as Winston actually gets a lot of lines in this movie. Good, about time. And they actually make the legacy of Winston all the more, because they actually kind of make him key to extending the impact and the work of the Ghostbusters, preserving their legacy and their brand. He's become this really successful, rich man who is using that to equip our new batch of Ghostbusters with better technology and provide them a better future so they can look after New York in his wake. And then we have Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd as Ray is just a treasure in this movie. He looks so happy. He looks so radiant. He just looks so very pleased that we are still making Ghostbusters movies, and I'm glad that he got a good bit of screen time, because Ray even has a line in the movie about there's no other way he would like to see out his golden years than busting ghosts. And you can tell that there's a bit of meta-ness to that line, because I think that goes double for Dan Aykroyd himself. So to summarize why I love the movie, we have all sorts of different set pieces, all sorts of different ghosts, all sorts of new stuff we haven't seen before with new characters and new technology. There's so much imagination and creativity going on that I don't think it's the same old stale product. I don't think they're just doing the old legacy baiting stuff that we've become accustomed to, the new modern formula of filmmaking. There's maybe an Easter egg here or there for some people that will like that, but there's not so much that will leave a bad taste in your mouth or feel like it is just lazy. There's a lot of new, really fun stuff here, to where I was in an auditorium with a bunch of kids and a bunch of older people, and when we got up, everybody was chit-chatting, everybody was talking. It felt like we were a part of almost like a little Ghostbuster fandom or community. Everybody had a good time, and I really love that. And I think it's awesome because I can enjoy it as a 30-year-old man, but I also know I would have loved this as a kid, just like I loved the original Ghostbuster films as a kid, and it really stoked my imagination. And it made me think about this whole world of Ghostbusters, what other type of ghosts were out there, what type of ghosts would I design, and it just did something for me, the fantasy of it all. I think that's still very much alive in this. I think they've rekindled something great with these new 2 movies that has done all sorts of good for removing the stain of 2016 and it's back on course. I would, after this, really welcome another Ghostbusters movie. But now, let's talk about the negatives so we can wrap up this review. First, it's just a little too long, which is kind of a common occurrence with modern filmmaking. I didn't think this movie really needed to be a full 2 hours. Now, it's not a huge problem. I just think a few things could have been, maybe cut out or moved around. Certain things could have received more time, which is my second negative. I feel like for as fun as Garaka was, as powerful as he is, as cool as his powers are, literally cool. I mean, this is one big gnarly cool miser. For as cool as they are, I feel like I wish I got to see him doing more, getting to slay more, getting to take more victims, and then having a more drawn out conclusion to that character and how the Ghostbusters ultimately handle him. For having 2 hours of movie, I wish that more of the runtime had been centered on that. Even if I did have a good time in my mind's eye, I think that's one way that we could take this up, maybe a half star. And then my last negative would be that McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe, I loved her in the first movie. She was so damn Egon. There was no doubting whatsoever that that was her granddaddy. And this movie, they've kind of forgotten that. And the opening moments where they're chasing the, what is it, Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon around through the city, she feels like that character. She's still very much in the body of that character. She's still very monotone, very wooden. She's telling her little funny, like scientist dad jokes. And then from there, she kind of just becomes this teenage girl character we've seen a bunch, where she's a little bit rebellious, she's a little bit at odds with her guardians, she's getting a little too big for her shoes, she doesn't really feel like she fits into anywhere in the world, and that's not a bad character per se. It's just that we've seen that a lot, and it's not as interesting to me as the very sure of herself, very smart, very astute, very kind of monotone, very kind of wooden in a way, and yet very like affable character that we got in Afterlife. So I preferred her characterization in Afterlife, and I think that's the only character I can say that about. But she's still very good in this. McKenna Grace is still very good in this movie, as I'm sure anyone who has seen this would tell you. So those are my thoughts on the movie. If I have to give it a score, I would give it a 3.6 out of 5. Why not a 3.5? I don't know. Just in my head, I was like, it's better than that. 3.6. 3.6 out of 5. I was really relieved that I had such a good time with this. Do not be misled by the trailers. It is better than what the trailers make it out to be. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section if you've seen this movie, because I know the reception is a mixed bag, and I'm happy to be on the positive side of that spectrum. Please go down and hit like. Please comment and subscribe. All the old YouTube yada yada bullcrap I have to ask you, because that's just the way things work here on this site. But I don't have to ask you this, but I'm going anyway. Will you please go out and have yourself a great day? I'm Nate for natemareflix, and that's a wrap.